June 1st, 2024. Close your eyes and imagine this. The final whistle blows, and for the first time in 9 years, it hits you that you have to say goodbye to your team. You have to say goodbye to the team that's felt like your home for so long. You stand there as the field slowly emptying around you, and then you're surrounded by your teammates. Your coach is laughing, your best friend is crying, and then you're suddenly pulled into a hug. Your mind races back to the 9 years that you've spent watching these amazing people in front of you grow up. You've shared so much, unforgettable victories to heartbreaking defeats, and grueling late-night practices that were always fun in some way, and moments of pure joy. And now it's all come to an end. Your jersey, the one that's been a part of your identity since you were 5 years old, comes off for the last time for this team. It's not just a game that's ending, it's a chapter of your life that's closing. But leaving something familiar is the essence of change. It asks us to step away from the comfort and the familiarity of something, even when it's painful, which it almost always is. But that's where growth lives, in the space between what we know, what we think we know, and what we're about to find out. Leaving that team wasn't just a switch in clubs. It felt like losing a part of myself. Soccer wasn't just something I did. It summed up who I was. It was my escape from reality. It was my escape when things got hard. It was where I learned to push myself beyond my limits. It was where I found my strengths and my weaknesses. It was where I built unbreakable bonds and where I discovered a second family. It was early morning tournaments, it was games in the freezing cold, and it was screaming from the sidelines with people that knew me better than I could say I knew myself. Saying goodbye to that, to those people, felt like losing a part of who I had become. But deep down, I knew it was my time to leave. Near the end of my time with that team, I started to feel something that no athlete would want to admit: burnout. I was still showing up, I was still practicing, I was still trying as hard as I could, but it didn't feel the same anymore. I felt like I had something to prove, not just to myself, but to everyone I was surrounded with. I felt like I was constantly chasing past versions of myself, and that was exhausting. I kept telling myself that if I kept practicing, the passion, the confidence, it would come back, but it didn't. I got more tired, and I developed this fear of messing up, this fear of not being enough, this fear of disappointing others. And somewhere within all of the fear that was constantly circling through my mind, I was slowly losing the love I had for the game. Burnout was one of those moments where change screamed at me. It literally forced me to open my eyes and see that something that was supposed to bring me joy was bringing me despair. It demanded I try something different. It demanded I try something new, and that was the first step in my transformation, recognizing that I needed a change in my life. As much as I didn't want to admit it, leaving that team gave me room to breathe. It reminded me why I loved soccer so much in the first place. I miss soccer, I really, really did, but not the version that made me feel small or caged up, but the version that made me feel alive and free. And slowly but surely, I did find that again. I learned that my choice of stepping away from that team wasn't me quitting because things got hard. It wasn't me quitting because life threw an obstacle at me and I couldn't handle it. It was me choosing to protect something I love before it becomes something I resent. Change is often viewed as stepping into something new, into something unfamiliar. And just as much as it's that, it's also stepping away from what drains you, away from what no longer serves you, so you can rebuild. And it is scary, yes, but it is so essential. It is so important for us to move on, move past. And that's where my new chapter begins. I found new teammates, new challenges, and a new intensity that lit a fire inside of me. I found opportunities to train with better teams I could have never imagined practicing with if I stayed on the old team. I learned to train smarter, not harder. I gave myself grace on hard days. I rested without guilt, but more importantly, I was playing for myself again, all because I had purposefully let a change enter my life. Just as I was about to fully unlock that passion and that confidence back, I tore my cartilage. I didn't want to believe it at first, so I kept playing on that hurt knee. But what I didn't realize back then was the more I kept playing on a hurt knee, the more I was in danger of tearing it again, but having to need surgery this time around. So many people asked me why I was still playing, why I still showed up to practice, but how could I tell them that every step was hard fought? How could I tell them that every step I thought would lead to something greater? January 19th, 2025. 4 months later, the second tear confirmed what I feared. I needed surgery. I couldn't play in my Texas tournament, the tournament I'd been practicing all season for. State Cup was way out of reach. Jeff Cup, don't even think about that right now. That should be in the very back of your mind. Okay, it's in the back of my mind. What I had initially thought would be a minor setback ended up becoming a major pause. And then I got news that the healing process had been delayed by 2 months. 2 months longer than I had anticipated to be off the field. The timeline I'd created in my mind where I'd be back by June slowly shifted to August. And my comeback season slowly shifted to my scream from the sidelines until you lose your voice season. And that hurt. But I learned that change doesn't always introduce itself with fanfare. It doesn't always introduce itself with blowing confetti. Sometimes, in ways we never expect, it slowly crawls in, rewrites everything, flips your world upside down, and leaves you reeling. And that's the beauty of it. At first, I was sad, I was angry, I was humiliated, I felt drained. I mean, I had just now gotten back to a place where I felt good physically, mentally, and emotionally, and then it was gone. It was gone like it never even happened. Sitting on the sidelines, watching my teammates play the one thing I love the very most, feeling my body slow down while my mind was constantly racing with these thoughts was one of the hardest things I had ever had to experience. But no one tells you that change is easy because it's not. It's meant to be difficult and it's meant to be challenging. It is meant to stretch us in ways that comfort never could. But here's the truth. I had to learn to sit with it. I had to learn to be okay with not being okay. I had to learn to find strength in the stillness, and that was a strength I really did not know I needed. I came out of surgery more grounded and grateful than ever. Yes, I had to rebuild, but I'd done it once before when I was leaving teams, and I could definitely do it again. Recovery taught me a new kind of discipline, not about pushing, but about trusting the process. It taught me the idea that everything happens for a reason. Some days I felt hopeful, and some days I wondered if I would even be the same player again. But in those days, I had to rely on mindset because I couldn't rely on movement. And I've learned that growth doesn't only happen on the field with your cleats and shin guards on. Sometimes it happens in how we respond when the field is taken away from us. And again, I changed. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to, because it was so important for me to get on with my life, to move past that roadblock. August 16th, 2025. So here I am today, still healing, still growing, still having bad days, yes, but still loving the sport with everything I have. And I've learned that the version of me standing on stage today, the new and improved version, would not be here sharing my experience with change with all of you if I hadn't purposefully let a change enter my life all those months ago. So as this talk comes to a close, if you ever feel yourself doubtful when you cross paths with your next change, remember that a great chapter will end. But if you keep the book open and if you willingly continue turning the pages, the story will never stop unfolding into something greater.